When Jasmine Crockett calmly rose from her seat during the ethics hearing, no one in the room expected what would follow. Ivanka Trump, seated under the bright C-SPAN lights, had been perfectly composed until the moment that folder opened. The hearing that Tuesday morning in Washington was supposed to be routine, at least on paper. Routine is what they always say before the floor drops out. C-SPAN's cameras hummed quietly as the committee convened in the cavernous chamber. No whispers, no idle chatter, just the hollow silence of people waiting for something they couldn't see coming. Ivanka Trump had arrived just before 9 a.m., punctual and polished in a muted navy suit. Her hair was sleek, her expression neutral, lips pressed into something that was not quite a smile. She was there to defend the relaunch of the Trump Foundation, now under a new name and renewed commitment to children and workforce development. At the far left of the semicircle, Representative Jasmine Crockett barely moved. She flipped through a thick manila folder, page by page, her pen tapping the edge of the desk in slow, deliberate beats like a countdown nobody else could hear. Ms. Trump, you may begin, Chairman Halbridge said, clearing his throat in that self-conscious way of men in too tight ties. Ivanka leaned toward the microphone, her voice smooth and prepped for prime time. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I appear today as a private citizen. She spoke in the polished rhythm of someone used to flattering cameras. Legacy, impact, responsible giving. It was a speech designed to melt into the record without friction. A few lawmakers nodded. Most scrolled idly on their phones, but Jasmine Crockett never looked away. 20 minutes in, just as Ivanka turned to page 2 of her remarks, a soft voice cut through the room. Mr. Chairman, as Jasmine said, raising her hand. The room paused. The cameras caught the first flicker of tension in Ivanka's face. And that's when the folder opened. Jasmine Crockett rose slowly, the room falling into a hush. Chairman Halbridge frowned. Miss Crockett, we allow statements to finish first. He said. I won't take long, Jasmine replied, her voice even. But in the interest of time, the committee needs to be aware of certain undisclosed connections relevant to today's topic. Ivanka Trump blinked. The chairman hesitated, then nodded. Proceed briefly. Jasmine stood not in a rush, not grandstanding, just with the quiet confidence of someone holding something explosive. I'd like to submit for the record a series of encrypted messages, she said, recovered from a private server tied to Trump family communications between 2018 and 2021. These messages, along with recently declassified travel logs, raise serious questions about whether Ms. Ivanka Trump exercised personal influence over federal policy decisions while maintaining a relationship with the former president that falls outside professional norms. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. A reporter muttered, "What?" Ivanka stayed frozen for a beat, then shifted in her chair, jaw tightening, the first crack in her polished composure. These communications, Jasmine continued, holding up a sheet of message headers, show frequent off-the-record meetings. In several cases, they overlap with budget discussions on education, health policy, and foreign contracts. None of these meetings appear in official White House logs, yet Ivanka was present. And so was her father? The room rippled with movement. Lawmakers texting, reporters fumbling for their phones. Someone from Ivanka's team leaned forward and whispered urgently. Representative Crockett, the chairman said sharply, are you suggesting personal misconduct? I'm not suggesting, Jasmine replied, never raising her voice. I'm submitting verified communications. The committee and the public can draw their own conclusions. Finally, Ivanka spoke. This is a lie, she said, voice clipped. Would you like to deny it under oath? Jasmine asked, turning toward her. I said it's a lie, and frankly, it's disgusting. Ivanka's voice cracked just slightly. But that was the moment the room shifted. Not because of Jasmine's words, but because Ivanka's first response wasn't evidence. It was emotion. The air tightened, cameras swiveled. Phones rose. Jasmine didn't gloat. She simply sat down and slid a second folder forward, the tab marked with a single black dot. She didn't look at Ivanka, she didn't need to. The room was hers now, asterisk, the chairman tapped his gavel once. Representative Crockett, proceed, but stay on topic. Asterisk, they are on topic, Jasmine said, calm as ever. This isn't personal. It's ethical. Asterisk, she reached into the second folder and withdrew a single printed message. Holding it up to the cameras, she said, asterisk, this communication is dated July 17th, 2019, 4 days before the administration quietly adjusted tax allocations for charter school programs in multiple states. The message reads, quote, let's have our meeting early. He doesn't want anyone else in the room. Same place. He said it's better when it's just the two of us. Gasps rippled across the chamber. This message, Jasmine continued, was sent from Ivanka Trump's known encrypted account to a contact traced to the West Wing's internal network. Travel logs confirm she flew into Milwaukee that morning while Donald Trump was holding a closed-door fundraiser. No public record of this meeting exists. No notes, no other attendees. Asterisk, Ivanka sat straighter, her face taut. That message is out of context, she said. Asterisk, you're fabricating intent, Ivanka said, her voice tight. Asterisk, I'm quoting your words, Jasmine replied evenly. Nothing more. And I'm not accusing, I'm asking why federal policy shifted days after these private meetings. Asterisk, Ivanka folded her arms. These kinds of insinuations are why serious people avoid public service. It's disgusting. Asterisk, it isn't an accusation, Miss Trump, Jasmine said, unflinching. It's a question, and you haven't answered it. Asterisk, from the far end of the dais, Republican Representative Caleb Strickland leaned toward his mic. Mr. Chairman, are we really entertaining tabloid-level conspiracy theories here? Asterisk, Jasmine turned her head slightly. Congressman, if you'd like to call verified White House travel logs a tabloid, I'd invite you to put that on the record. Asterisk, Caleb muttered something under his breath and leaned back. Asterisk, Jasmine continued, calm and deliberate. March 3rd, 2022, days before an $89 million federal contract was awarded to a New York consulting firm later found to have undisclosed Trump family ties. That same night, Ivanka Trump landed in Sacramento. Again, no official record of a meeting. But the former president made a private stopover at the same hotel. Asterisk, there were no Secret Service logs for that visit, but an anonymous hotel report filed last year noted restricted elevator access for 2 individuals from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Asterisk, Ivanka's composure cracked. Her voice snapped. Are you seriously insinuating that something inappropriate happened between me and my father? Asterisk, Jasmine tilted her head, voice still level. I'm pointing out that decisions, money movements, and off-the-record meetings follow a consistent pattern. This isn't personal, it's about accountability. Asterisk, the room froze. Heavy silence pressed against the walls. A single cough echoed from the press box. Asterisk, Jasmine reached into her folder again. One more for now. Asterisk, she lifted a black and white photograph. The room seemed to lean toward it. Asterisk, this image, she said, was taken by a staffer who thought nothing of it at the time. It shows Ivanka Trump and former President Trump leaving the back entrance of a private estate in Naples, Florida. No official reason for the visit was ever filed. Asterisk, 2 weeks later, FEMA funding for the region was quietly slashed. Months after that, the owner of this estate, a private CEO, secured a federal disaster relief subcontract. Asterisk, the chairman's lips parted like he wanted to intervene, but no words came. Asterisk, for the first time, Ivanka turned toward the cameras, her voice lower now. I will not be dragged through the mud like this. I came here in good faith. Then answer the questions, Jasmine said simply. The chairman raised a hand. We will take a brief recess. Asterisk, too late. The room had already broken. Reporters were on their phones, cameras flashing, the low hum of chaos rising like a storm. Asterisk, did you influence your father's policy decisions, Ivanka? A reporter shouted over the din. Asterisk, Representative Crockett, do you think Ivanka's hiding something? Another called, Jasmine didn't answer. She simply gathered her folders, rose slowly, and walked out with the calm of someone who hadn't even warmed up yet. The storm wasn't outside. It was brewing inside that room, and Jasmine was only getting started. The hallway was chaos. Reporters clustered like startled birds, firing questions no one was ready to answer. Staffers darted back and forth, trying to corral the press. The sound of frantic typing and camera shutters echoed off the marble walls. Inside, the committee room emptied in slow motion. Jasmine remained seated at her desk, flipping through notes with the same measured focus she'd had all morning. No smirk. No gloat. Just a quiet readiness, like she already knew the next move. Meanwhile, Ivanka had vanished into a side chamber with her attorney and 2 aides. The door was shut, but thin walls couldn't muffle the sharp edges of frustration. She wasn't supposed to have that. How did they even get clearance? Get this under control? Now, 10 minutes passed, then 15. Finally, the gavel cracked, and the committee was called back to order. Ivanka re-emerged. Her posture was perfect, but her face wasn't the same. Her makeup remained flawless, but her eyes had hardened. She looked like someone clinging to a ledge that was starting to crumble. I'd like to respond directly to the accusations made earlier, she said, voice steady but tight. The chairman gave a small nod. I have never used my position to influence government decisions inappropriately. I have served my country and my family with integrity. These suggestions are not just offensive, they're beneath the dignity of this chamber. Jasmine didn't move. Ivanka pressed on. Private meetings? Yes, I met with my father. I was a senior advisor. That's not a scandal, that's my job. The records, Jasmine said softly, almost like a reminder. Show you weren't on the logs. Because not every conversation makes it onto a public schedule, Ivanka snapped. And that, Jasmine replied evenly, is the problem. There's no oversight when access is private and the stakes are public. Ivanka exhaled sharply, eyes flashing. This isn't about oversight. This is about trying to humiliate me on national television. Jasmine raised one eyebrow. If you feel humiliated, that's not something I control. I'm here to ask questions, not make personal attacks. A few members shifted in their seats. The tension between the 2 women had spread across the entire panel, a silent acknowledgement of the weight of what had just been said and what might still be coming. Chairman Halbridge finally broke the silence. Ms. Trump, can you confirm or deny the authenticity of the communications Representative Crockett has submitted? I've never seen them before, Ivanka said. And I won't comment on private, unverified materials. Jasmine leaned forward, her tone like steel wrapped in silk. So, you're not denying that the meetings took place? Ivanka hesitated. I'm saying context matters. My father and I work together. Any assumption beyond that is pure theater. The word landed in the room like a spark on dry wood. Theater. Jasmine allowed a faint smile. If this is theater, then the audience deserves a full performance. I'm requesting an independent review of the server data and travel logs submitted. Today, with subpoena authority, the panel shifted uneasily. The chairman bristled. That's, this may fall outside today's agenda, Jasmine said, never raising her voice. But it is fully within the jurisdiction of the Ethics Committee, and it's not just about one person. It's about a pattern. If we ignore it, we're saying that private influence over public power is acceptable. Is that the standard this chamber wants to set? No one answered. Ivanka shook her head, her voice sharp. You're exploiting headlines to boost your own profile. Maybe, Jasmine said, calm as ever. Or maybe I'm doing the job I was elected to do, holding people accountable. Even the ones used to being protected. The room buzzed. This time, it wasn't noise, it was doubt, creeping in like a draft through the cracks of a sealed door. Lawmakers shifted in their seats, glancing at one another, at the press, at the woman who hadn't lost composure for a second. Asterisk Ivanka leaned back in her chair, eyes locked on Jasmine. But she said nothing. And in that silence the cameras caught what a speech never could. Only when the murmurs faded did Jasmine open the final folder. Unlike the others, this wasn't filled with highlighted emails or neat printouts. This folder held color photographs, annotated screenshots, time-stamped maps, visuals that needed no interpretation. Asterisk, I'd like to submit several exhibits for the record, she said, not once glancing at Ivanka. These include GPS metadata from federal flight logs, hotel staff shift records, and surveillance images from government-leased facilities. Asterisk gasps rose as the first photo appeared on the screen. Ivanka, stepping out of a side entrance of the Intercontinental in Austin, Texas, 11:34 p.m., flanked not by her official Secret Service detail, but a lone man in a black coat staring at his phone. Asterisk, the metadata matched a secretive visit by Donald Trump to the same hotel during a private lobbying dinner just 2 nights before a critical infrastructure bill was quietly altered to benefit Trump-linked contractors. Asterisk, Jasmine didn't narrate every detail. She let the images hang in the air like smoke. Asterisk, this isn't about catching someone in a lie, she said. It's about showing that the people with the most influence in this country are also the most shielded from scrutiny. That shield should not exist, not for elected officials, not for their family members. Asterisk, cameras caught Ivanka biting her lower lip, the first visible crack in her carefully composed mask. Asterisk, another image flashed onto the screen. Ivanka seated beside her. Father aboard a private jet, October 2020, no press. No official itinerary. Asterisk, the timestamp, Jasmine said. And the filed flight paths show this plane was rerouted mid-air to Charleston, West Virginia. That same week, a federal prison contract was reassigned to a private vendor whose CEO had just made a maximum donation to the Trump Victory PAC. Asterisk, Ivanka's voice cut in, sharp as glass. This is a smear campaign. You're connecting dots that don't belong together. Then help us disconnect them, Jasmine said without blinking. An aide slipped Ivanka a note. She read it quickly, folded it, and slid it under her notepad. Her voice was cold now. I'm not going to dignify this circus. These aren't crimes. You're digging through personal moments and pretending they're sinister. Asterisk, Miss Trump, Jasmine said, her tone still surgical. This isn't about personal moments. It's about patterns, timelines, if it walks like coordination, and talks like coordination. The sentence hung in the air like a knife no one wanted to touch. For the first time all morning, Congresswoman Delia Monroe, quiet moderate from Oregon, leaned toward her microphone. Asterisk, Representative Crockett, she said carefully, are you suggesting Ivanka Trump acted as an unofficial policy advisor, outside her formal role and without Ovi? Jasmine lifted her gaze, steady and unflinching. I'm not suggesting, she said. I'm showing you the materials that indicate exactly that. Asterisk, across the semicircle, Congresswoman Delia Monroe looked toward the chairman. Her voice was measured, but it carried asterisk, then I support a formal review. Asterisk, the room stirred. Up to that point, it had been Jasmine alone carrying the weight of the confrontation. Now someone from the middle, someone neutral, was leaning in her direction. Asterisk, Ivanka blinked, visibly stunned. I'm not sure what you think you're seeing, she said carefully. But my role in the administration was always ethical, always structured, always above board. Asterisk, then prove it, Monroe said, because right now it doesn't look that way. Asterisk, a heavy pause followed. Ivanka opened her mouth, then closed it. She glanced toward her lawyer. He leaned in, whispered, and gave the lightest tap on the table, a signal to hold her line. Asterisk, Chairman Halbridge cleared his throat, his voice rough. The committee will recess again while we determine next steps. But no one moved. Reporters stayed glued to their seats. The public live streams hit record numbers. Jasmine's name was already trending, and screenshots of the exhibits were flooding social media in real time. Asterisk, before the feed cut to the recess graphic, Jasmine leaned into her mic just enough for Ivanka and the audience to hear asterisk. There's more, she said softly. But I'll let you decide how much of it you want on the record. A beat. When you drop a match like that, she added, it's not up to you whether the fire spreads. Asterisk by the time the committee reconvened. The energy in the room had shifted. The creak of chairs was quieter. The usual buzz of phones had died. No one dared look down, because the real action wasn't online anymore, it was here. In this room, under these lights, Asterisk Chairman Howgridge looked cornered, not guilty, but like a man realizing the rules he'd relied on weren't protecting him anymore. He cleared his throat again. Asterisk. Before we resume, he said, I remind all participants that this is a formal proceeding. We expect decorum and relevance to the agenda. Asterisk Jasmine sat calmly, hands folded. Ivanka looked composed again, at least on the surface, but she avoided eye contact with everyone. Asterisk, then Monroe, normally the quiet strategist, raised her mic. Asterisk, Mr. Chairman, she said, I move to suspend the remainder of today's hearing. Agenda to address the materials submitted by Representative Crockett. Asterisk, the room froze. It was a bold move. Monroe wasn't known for grandstanding. But something in her calculation had changed. Asterisk, and the chairman knew it. Asterisk, that's highly irregular. Chairman Howbridge exhaled. Asterisk, so our encrypted back channel. Communications from a non-elected official guiding federal decisions. Monroe replied without hesitation. Asterisk, a ripple of quiet agreement passed along the panel. Members who had been frozen in neutrality earlier began leaning forward, not necessarily toward Jasmine, but away from the fence they'd been clinging to. Asterisk, Ivanka leaned in, voice measured but sharp. I'd like to make a statement. Asterisk, Jasmine didn't interrupt. She simply leaned back, letting the moment stretch, letting Ivanka fill the silence. Asterisk, I didn't come here expecting this circus, Ivanka said. I came in good faith to talk about charitable work and public service. What I've received is a politically motivated hit job. Asterisk, Jasmine's eyebrow lifted, her voice calm. Then let's focus on facts. You say this is political? Fine, show me which dates are wrong, which messages are fabricated. Which trips didn't happen? Asterisk, Ivanka's jaw tightened. You know I can't discuss classified travel details. Asterisk, these weren't classified, Jasmine said, without missing a beat. They were just omitted. There's a difference. Asterisk, the chairman leaned into his microphone, his tone a low rumble. If there's going to be an independent review, it will follow procedure. Asterisk, Jasmine nodded. Of course. I'll prepare a formal motion. Then something unexpected broke the tension. Representative Leo Franco, a staunch conservative from Arizona, cleared his throat. Before this gets buried in protocol, he said, I just want to say something. Asterisk. He wasn't looking at Ivanka. He wasn't looking at Jasmine. He was looking past the committee out toward the gallery and the cameras. Asterisk, whatever side. You're on whether you think this is overreach or overdue, you have to admit, we've let too much slide over the years. Asterisk, a hush rippled through the chamber. Even Ivanka's stillness faltered slightly. Her foot tapped beneath the table. Asterisk, Leo continued, slower now. I'm not saying I believe everything presented today, but I do believe we owe the American people transparency, even if it means asking uncomfortable questions. Asterisk, thank you, Representative Franco, Jasmine said, her voice as calm as it had been all day. Asterisk, the chairman looked drained. The motion to suspend today's agenda is under review. We will break for 5 minutes. Asterisk, he banged the gavel once and disappeared through a side door before anyone could press him further. Asterisk, the room exhaled. Tension uncoiled, just enough for movement. Asterisk, Jasmine gathered her folders and stood. She didn't smile, didn't rush. Just walked toward the rear exit. Asterisk, Ivanka's eyes tracked her the entire way. Beneath the table, her hand curled into a fist. An aide leaned in to whisper something, but Ivanka didn't respond. Her jaw was set, locked in place. Asterisk, outside the chamber, the hallway was already a crush of journalists. Questions flew like confetti. Cameras flashed. Asterisk, Jasmine didn't break stride. She cut straight toward the stairwell, avoiding the waiting spotlight. She wasn't chasing it. But it was coming anyway. Asterisk because once people start paying attention, yesterday's silence starts to sound like complicity. Asterisk by mid-afternoon. The hearing had already detonated across every platform. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Reddit clips of Jasmine calmly holding up that damning photograph outside the Intercontinental in Austin flooded timelines. Asterisk. Some edits were just 40-second bursts, Jasmine raising the photo, Ivanka blinking, the room gasping. Others were 10-minute cuts, complete with commentary from legal experts and ex-staffers. Asterisk. The hashtag Crockett vs. Ivanka had crossed 5 million views in under 12 hours. Asterisk. And then the footage surfaced. Asterisk. The grainy local news footage flickered across split screens on cable networks and Twitter feeds alike. Asterisk. Donald Trump's motorcade crept up to the unmarked back entrance of a building no one had ever publicly explained. The angle was bad, the lighting worse, but the timestamp matched the flight data Jasmine had referenced in the hearing. Asterisk. And then, frame by shaky frame, the second SUV door opened. A single blonde figure stepped out. No crowd, no reporters. Asterisk. Just security and shadows at 1:07 a.m. Asterisk. Online sleuths pounced like wolves. Is that Ivanka? Why was she there? She had no role in this contract. Why is she getting out of a black SUV in the dead of night? Asterisk. Every frame became evidence. Users slowed the video, brightened it, froze it on the moment the figure lifted her head just enough to catch a weak glint of light. Side by side with recent photos, the conclusion spread faster than the video itself. It's her. Asterisk. Jasmine's folder from the hearing had already laid the groundwork. Hotel staff reports, GPS metadata, even elevator logs. Now this forgotten local broadcast felt like confirmation, the missing puzzle piece falling into place. Asterisk. Ivanka's defenders scrambled. Her communications director pushed out a brief statement by late afternoon. Asterisk. Today's hearing was marked by political theater and misleading interpretations. Asterisk. Miss Trump has always conducted herself with integrity. Asterisk. No denial, no alternative explanation, just language that felt vague, too vague for the moment. Asterisk. Meanwhile, Jasmine didn't say a word to the cameras. She didn't need to. Asterisk. Her team quietly uploaded a 12-page PDF to the committee's press pool, stamped for immediate transparency. Redacted flight logs, metadata screenshots, annotated timelines. Every claim she'd made, sourced and time-stamped, pressure-mounted. Reporters who had rolled their eyes that morning were now poring over visitor logs from 2019 and 2020 nightly. Talk shows brought in ethics professors and body language analysts. One former federal investigator said flatly, asterisk greater than, "That's not the face of someone angry about lies. Asterisk, that's the face of someone losing control of the narrative." It stung. Back inside the Capitol, Ivanka waited in a private lounge for her car. The walls felt too close, the leather sofa too stiff. Her aides were silent now, glued to their phones, scrolling headlines they couldn't stop. Asterisk, the world outside the door had already shifted, and it wasn't waiting for her to catch up. Asterisk. Control was an illusion. Outside Ivanka's private holding room, the hallway was silent. Inside, it was suffocating. Asterisk. Vincent Dre, her lead advisor, paced tight circles, sweat bleeding through his collar. Carla, the junior aide, pressed herself into a corner, thumbs flying across her phone. Asterisk. The silence wasn't calm. It was the kind that settles right after someone realizes they've been caught and doesn't yet know which part of the story has collapsed. Asterisk. Ivanka sat on the edge of a beige leather couch, heels still on, makeup flawless but worn into fatigue. Her fingers tapped the side of an untouched water bottle. Asterisk. 5 minutes of wordless tension passed. Then softly, asterisk, who gave it to her? Asterisk. Vincent froze mid-step. We don't know. But someone had access to documents we never cleared. Asterisk. Not just documents, Ivanka muttered. The photos, the timestamps, the messages. That wasn't a FOIA request. That came from the inside. Asterisk. Possibly, he said, voice low. Or someone flipped. Either way, we've got a problem. Asterisk Ivanka's gaze was glassy, her voice a whisper. No, we have a traitor. Across the Capitol, the energy was entirely different. Asterisk Jasmine Crockett wasn't basking in the media storm. She was in a small, windowless committee room with 3 aides and Ross Banford, a quiet, methodical man from the Oversight Subcommittee who had flown in from Pennsylvania just for this meeting. Asterisk. He was the kind of man reporters rarely recognized. The kind who dug for weeks where others skimmed. Asterisk. This is bigger than an ethics hearing, Ross said, flipping through the evidence Jasmine had handed him. I've been waiting for someone to crack this door open. I didn't expect it to be you. I didn't expect the door to swing this fast, Jasmine replied. Ross held up a flight log. You verified this? Asterisk twice, Homeland Security. Cross-check and a secondary confirmation from an anonymous DHS contractor. Every timestamp matches. Asterisk, and the emails? Asterisk, scrubbed versions of encrypted messages, pulled from a hard drive seized during a 2022 financial fraud probe. Belonged to a former Trump Foundation advisor. Everyone assumed it was junk. Asterisk Ross exhaled slowly through his nose. Not junk. Leverage. Asterisk Jasmine leaned back. I'm not here to topple the whole tree, Ross. I'm just shining a light on the rot. Asterisk. Then be ready, he said. Rot fights back. Especially when it has never heard the word no. Meanwhile, in Ivanka's holding room, the real battle had shifted to damage control. Asterisk Vincent and Carla had a crisis strategist on speakerphone, an old Trump world fixer who specialized in one thing. Delay and distract. Asterisk. We'll prepare a press push to discredit the hearing, the voice said. Roll out statements from former allies. Frame it as political theater. Asterisk Ivanka stared out the window, jaw tight. No one's going to believe that if we don't explain the documents. Asterisk, that's not the play, the voice said. The play is to cast doubt on the source. Doesn't matter if it's true. All that matters is making the public second-guess what they saw. Asterisk Ivanka turned slowly toward the speaker. And if the person who leaked it keeps going? A long pause. Then you consider a proactive legal move. Force Jasmine to reveal her sources. If she refuses, claim fabrication. If she complies, you scare the next person into silence? Silence returned heavier than before. Asterisk back in Jasmine's office. Her assistant knocked once. Asterisk, they're requesting an interview, he said. Not media, legal, congressional counsel wants to know how deep this goes. Asterisk Jasmine stood, smoothing the front of her jacket. Tell him I'll talk, she said. Then she paused, meeting his eyes. Asterisk, but not behind closed doors. Asterisk, no makeup. No podium. No prepared notes. Asterisk, just Jasmine, standing in the soft warmth of a spring breeze, speaking to a small circle of college students who had asked her to visit. Asterisk, she wasn't there to talk about Ivanka Trump or hearings or viral clips. She was there to talk about truth, what it costs, what it demands, and why it's still worth it. Asterisk, a boy, maybe 19, leaned forward. How did you know they wouldn't just shut you down? Asterisk Jasmine paused. Her mind flicked through the memories. Early mornings hunched over documents. Anonymous emails from people too afraid to attach their names. The cold rooms where powerful people looked her in the eye like she didn't exist. Asterisk, I didn't. She said. The circle went quiet. I didn't know if they'd cut my mic. I didn't know if the chair would stop me. I didn't know if they'd smear me the next day. Asterisk, but what I did know, she continued, is that I had to say it anyway. Because if we keep letting fear write the rules, nothing ever changes. Asterisk, it wasn't a speech. It was just truth. Back in D.C., the gears of the system had started turning. A formal request for a subcommittee probe had been filed quietly, without headlines or a press release, but it was real. It was moving. Asterisk, it meant Ivanka Trump would be called back, this time under legal guardrails she couldn't sidestep. Her team tried to stall, security concerns, scheduling conflicts, even emotional distress. None of it mattered. The machine was awake now. Asterisk, the headlines cooled. But the questions didn't. Asterisk, late-night host still slipped her name into monologues. Political podcasts dissected Jasmine's strategy. Civil rights groups praised her tenacity. Former federal prosecutors weighed in not on gossip, but on ethics. The country wasn't just watching a scandal. It was watching a shift where family names stopped being shields, where proximity to power no longer meant immunity. Where a black woman from Texas could walk into a room, open a single folder, and make the entire system blink. Jasmine never saw herself as a hero. She wasn't trying to be one. She was just tired of watching wealth and fame bend rules that crushed everyone else. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about Ivanka. It was about truth. About what happens when people stop whispering and start speaking. In the end, it wasn't the photos or the emails that cracked the image. It was the reaction, the silence, the defensiveness, the lack of any clear denial. Because the truth has a way of showing up. Not all at once, but in pieces. And when someone is hiding something, even their pauses are loud. The lesson was simple, and Jasmine carried it with her like armor. Power is only dangerous when no one asks where it's been. So ask. Even when you're scared, even when they say it's not the right time, even when they tell you don't belong in the room. Ask anyway, because one question asked out loud can echo farther than anyone expects.